I wasn't willing to accept it. I just wasn't willing to die like that. A roar erupted from room 404 in the dorms of Moda University. I sat up abruptly on my bed, my face pale and drenched in sweat. It felt like I had just woken up from the worst nightmare imaginable. What happened? Wasn't I dead? My heart hammered against my ribs. I covered my face with my hands, rubbing my skin hard to force myself awake. Then I stopped. I felt my palms. They were smooth. I pulled my hands away and stared at them. They were fair and clear, nothing like the rough, callus-covered hands I had grown used to. I looked around the room. This was my old college dorm. Memories that had been buried for 10 years started rushing back, triggered by the familiar messy desks and bunk beds. "This is really the dorm," I whispered, my voice trembling with excitement. I jumped off the bed, not even bothering to put on shoes, and ran into the bathroom. I froze when I saw the reflection in the mirror. It was a handsome, youthful face. In my memory, this face should have been covered in hideous, jagged scars. But now it was clean. For 10 years, I hadn't looked in a mirror because I couldn't stand the sight of myself. I ran back to my bed and grabbed my phone to check the date. Blue Star Calendar, year 478, May 23rd. The time, the place, my appearance, it all lined up. I had been reborn. I was back on the very day the Doomsday Game descended upon the world. The memories of my death flashed before my eyes. Two neutral faction, war gods, had invited me to celebrate my promotion to war god status. While we were talking, Yao Jinghan had burst in, leading a zombie emperor. Those two traitors joined forces with her to kill me. I still didn't know what kind of deal that zombie emperor had made with the Li family, or how they had managed to get their hands on a legendary great sealing barrier that completely locked me in. Yao Jinghan. Just thinking of that name made my blood boil with pure hatred. I clenched my fists until my knuckles turned white. She was my girlfriend, the girl I had shared a bed with, the one everyone called the flower of Moda University. She was disgusting. Before the apocalypse, she had approached me on the orders of the Li family's young master. She used every sickening tactic in the book to strike at me, trying to destroy my life and my spirit. When we met again after the world ended, she and that Li family brat tried to murder me. I only survived by pure luck, though the encounter left my face ruined. Even then, she didn't stop. Protected by the Li family, she hunted me down like a cat playing with a mouse. I was just one man. How could I compete with the Li family? They were one of the 3 great families of the Dragon Kingdom. Even though the government officially ran things, these families were like hidden emperors. They had incredible resources, secret techniques to brainwash loyal death-sworn soldiers, and methods to magically enhance their physical strength. In the beginning, the Li family didn't take me seriously. That was their mistake. It gave me the chance to struggle and grow until I reached level 90, becoming the 10th war god of the Dragon Kingdom. But before I could get my revenge on Yao Jinghan, she used that legendary item to end me. For 10 years, I had wanted her dead every single second. But she was always protected. Now I was back. The apocalypse hadn't started yet. On the surface, Yao Jinghan was still my girlfriend. I could end her before the nightmare even began. Wait, stay calm, I told myself. I took a deep breath, forcing my mind to settle. In the apocalypse, only the calmest people survived. I needed to think. I checked my old, battered phone. It was 5:24 p.m. There was a message from Yao Jinghan. The phone's password was her birthday, a date I could never forget because of the blood debt between us. I opened the text. "Ziluo, I have to go out and tutor a kid at 6 p.m. tonight. I'm so sorry. I won't be able to spend your birthday with you." To anyone else, she sounded like a hard-working, good girl. The only weird thing was why she'd choose to tutor someone on her boyfriend's birthday. But I knew better. She wasn't tutoring a kid. She was heading to Li Haobo's bed. Li Haobo was the heir to the Li family. I never fully understood why he hated me so much, even up until the day I died. I only heard rumors that it had something to do with a grudge involving my long-dead father. Li Haobo looked down on me, treating my life like a game. He had ordered Yao Jinghan to fake a relationship with me just to humiliate me behind my back. I remembered tonight vividly. At 7 p.m., while I was alone in this dorm celebrating my birthday, Li Haobo would send me a video of Yao Jinghan tutoring him, along with a pile of bills she had run up on my behalf. That was the exact moment the Doomsday game started. The shock of the betrayal had crippled me, making me miss the crucial initial phase of the game and leaving me lagging behind everyone else. Not this time. I typed out a reply. Jinghan, it's okay. Since you're busy tonight, let's meet up quickly before you go. Meet me at the abandoned warehouse behind the sports field. After sending it, I started tearing the room apart. I dug through the clutter under my roommate's bed and finally found what I was looking for, a sharp dagger. Don't ask why it was there. Anyone who's lived in a male dorm knows that if there aren't a few hidden weapons lying around, it isn't a real dorm. I tucked the dagger into my jacket and checked my phone. She had replied, "Okay, but why meet there? I really have to leave by 6, so hurry up." Because I'm going to take your life, I thought. I didn't send that. Instead, I typed, because I want to give you a surprise. I saw the message mark as sent and shoved the phone into my pocket. I grabbed a backpack, stuffed some clothes inside, and walked out the door. The hallway of the boys' dorm stretched out before me, quiet and unsuspecting of the hell that was about to break loose. Groups of students were huddling together in the hallway. Some were bragging about nonsense, others were smoking, but most were staring out the windows. They were all debating the same thing, why the sky had turned a deep, bruised red. As I stepped out of my room, I let the coldness on my face melt away. I forced my expression into something warm and gentle. Looking at me, you'd never guess I was on my way to commit a murder. I passed a guy standing in the corridor with his phone held high. A news expert's voice blared from the speakers, echoing off the walls. This global phenomenon of the sky turning red is actually a natural occurrence seen once every 5,000 years, the voice droned. Please do not panic. Simply stay calm and enjoy the beautiful scenery. I looked up at the blood-red sky and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the wind. Only I knew the truth. This wasn't a scenic view. It was the herald of the Doomsday game. These people were so relaxed, so blissfully unaware. By 7 p.m., the game would begin. Zombies would tear through the campus, and most of these people wouldn't live to see tomorrow morning. I kept my head down and headed for the stairs, mentally rehearsing my plan one last time. By the time I snapped out of my thoughts, I had already crossed the sports field. I stood before the abandoned warehouse. No one ever came here during the day, but I still checked my surroundings with practiced caution. Once I was sure the coast was clear, I slipped inside. Yao Jinghan was there, sitting on a lone chair in the middle of the dusty room. Looking at her, I couldn't help but curse my past self. What a complete idiot I had been. I had let love blind me so much that I never even questioned how a girl from an ordinary family could afford the luxury brands she wore daily. Her outfit alone probably cost 6 figures. She didn't even bother to stand up when she saw me. She just looked at me with pure impatience. "What took you so long?" she snapped. "Just tell me what the surprise is. I have to get to my tutoring session." I didn't answer. I just started walking toward her. This was the woman I had hated with every fiber of my being for 10 long years. Her brow furrowed, her voice rising in irritation. "What's with the silence? If you aren't going to talk, I'm leaving." She started to stand up, but I was already in front of her. Before she could react, my hand shot out and clamped around her throat. She thrashed, her eyes wide with shock. She was used to the old Lin Yuan, the one who was obedient and lived to please her. She didn't realize that my grip was like iron. March 16th, year 478. Ultramodern Hotel, Shanghai. Total spent, 53,239 yuan. I said, my voice low and gravelly. She stared at me, confused and gasping for air. I pulled out the sharp dagger. March 29th, year 478. Kitty Hotel, Shanghai. Total spent, 109,984 yuan. I continued. Recognition finally hit her. These were the records of her hotel stays with Li Haobua. She tried to explain, tried to beg for mercy through my fingers, but I didn't give her the chance. April 13th, Confusion Bar. Spent, 409,999 yuan. Despair flooded her eyes. April 25th, Ultramodern Hotel again. Spent, 84,320 yuan. I recited the dates and numbers I had carved into my memory over a decade of suffering. I shoved her back down into the chair. She was trembling now, her face a mask of regret, confusion, and lingering spite. I leaned down and picked up the phone she had dropped. Using her finger, I bypassed the lock. The screen was open to a chat with Yahello. I can't wait to see you, Lee had messaged. Did you tell Lin Yuan yet? It won't be fun if you don't. I told him, Yao Jinghan had replied. He actually thinks I'm going to tutor someone. What about the birthday gift I told you to prepare for him? Don't worry, it's ready. Just don't forget that bag I wanted. Right below the text was a video. I tapped it and turned the screen toward her. In the video, Yao Jinghan stood in front of a camera, mocking me. Happy birthday, Lin Yuan, her recorded voice sneered. Use your brain. I'm the belle of Shanghai University. Why would I ever want a penniless orphan like you? If it wasn't for young Master Li specifically asking for you, I wouldn't even look your way. But thanks really. Because of you, I got everything I wanted from him. Yao Jinghan's eyes bulged. She couldn't understand how I was quoting a video she had recorded in secret only minutes ago. I didn't give her time to solve the mystery. I smiled, the blade flashed, and it was over. I sank to the floor, breathing hard. I had finally done it. 10 years. It took me 10 years to get this moment of justice. But it wasn't enough. Yahello was still out there in his manor. The Li family in Kyoto was still out there. Suddenly, a mechanical, synthesized voice rang out in my ear. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully rebirthing 10 years into the past. Activating the Doomsday Game cheat system. I pulled out my own phone. The clock said 6 p.m. That was impossible. The Doomsday Game wasn't supposed to start until 7 o'clock. That's when the world would turn into a survival RPG and the system would appear. And a cheat system? I had never heard of such a thing in my previous life. Ding! The Doomsday Game cheat system can crack the data of the game to provide the host with a better experience. Binding complete. Please draw your first super cheat. My mind raced. Was this a gift for my rebirth? If this thing could really crack the game's data, I would be unstoppable. Draw the first cheat, I whispered. Ding! Drawing first super cheat. Congratulations. You have obtained absolute drop rate. Absolute drop rate. Increases the drop rate of all items from killed zombies from 1% to 100%. I froze. To be honest, I hadn't fully believed the voice until that moment. But this was too much. In the original timeline, everyone knew how brutal the game was. The combined chance of getting any gear, skills, or even basic food from a kill was a pathetic 1%. It made survival a nightmare. But with a 100% drop rate, every single kill would make me stronger. Every zombie was now a treasure chest. I looked at my hands and felt a surge of power. The world was about to end, and for the first time, I was the one holding all the cards. In my previous life, those with bad luck had it the worst. Unless you could survive the brutal dungeons found in every major city to scavenge for gear and gold, your chances of staying alive were zero. Most people didn't make it. But now, this system was telling me that the 1% drop rate was being cranked up to a full 100%. Every single zombie I killed would be a guaranteed treasure chest. I could hardly wrap my head around it. Are you sure this thing actually works? I whispered, testing the voice in my head. Asterisk ding. Absolute drop rate is active. Please use it with confidence. Asterisk. A golden interface flickered into existence before my eyes. Doomsday Game cheat system name asterisk Linzluo, Linziluo, level asterisk 0 super cheat, asterisk absolute drop rate. Increases drop rate from 1% to 100%. Note asterisk you can activate a new super cheat every 10 levels. Missions asterisk none currently. The system explained that my level here matched the Doomsday Game level. Every 10 levels, I'd get a new super cheat. If I completed specific system missions, I could even earn ordinary cheats, gear, and items. I stood up, my heart racing with pure, unadulterated joy. I never expected an advantage this massive. Suddenly, a new thought took root in my mind. I was going to tear down the Li family. Originally, my plan was simple. Kill Yahello, go into hiding, and slowly grow stronger as a lone wolf. I spent 10 years being hunted in my past life. I knew that strength was the only thing that mattered. The Li family was a titan. They eventually founded Li City, a fortress housing tens of thousands of people. Overthrowing them seemed impossible before. But with this system, there was hope. Li family. Just you wait, I muttered. The rush of revenge was still humming in my veins. I grabbed Yao Jinghan's severed head and dragged her mangled, headless corpse across the floor. I stuffed both pieces of trash into a large bin in the corner of the warehouse and tossed my blood-stained clothes in after them. I pulled a fresh set of clothes from my bag and changed. I had less than an hour before the world ended. I needed to move. I walked out of the warehouse with my hands in my pockets, looking as casual as a student on a stroll. Nobody would ever guess that the university's campus bell was currently rotting in a trash can behind me. The campus was crowded. The sky had turned a deep, bruised crimson, a phenomenon that most students found romantic. Couples were hugging under the blood-red clouds, whispering sweet nothings. They had no idea the sky was bleeding for a reason. I stopped at a small convenience store near the sports field. "Auntie, 3 bottles of water and 5 loaves of bread, please," I said. I paid and stuffed the food into my bag. Even though I knew I could get supplies from zombies with my 100% drop rate, I needed a backup plan. I had to be sure the system was reliable. If it failed, I didn't want to starve. Now, I needed to focus on a perfect start. I walked straight out of the school gates. Universities were death traps during the apocalypse. Too many people, too many fit young students who would turn into fast, aggressive zombies. In the Doomsday game, level isn't everything, base attributes are. A trained soldier at level 0 could easily take down a level 5 civilian. I walked 2 streets away to a seedy, tucked-away little hotel. I walked inside and saw the owner lounging behind a small counter. "Give me a room for an hour," I said. The owner didn't even look up. "Single room. 40 yuan. I know. And send number 3 up to see me," I added, scanning the remaining 300 yuan in my account. The owner sat up then, eyeing me curiously. "Haven't seen you before." "Fine, 300 covers it. Keep your change, just go up. Number 3 will be there soon." He tossed me the key to room 209. I took the key without a word and headed upstairs. "Coming here for a girl and acting all moody," the owner grumbled behind me. He wasn't wrong about the hotel's reputation. It was a pink business spot. How did I know? Don't get the wrong idea. I had stayed here after the apocalypse started in my previous life. My goal was simple. I was here to complete an achievement. According to my memory, the number 3 technician at this hotel would eventually turn into the first mini-boss of this district. She was the first boss I ever killed. Since she was a boss, she wouldn't just be infected. She would transform the moment the clock struck 7. I needed a secluded place to kill my first zombie as quickly as possible. She was the perfect target. Room 209 was cramped and smelled terrible. The only upside was the shower. I stepped into the bathroom and washed the last of the warehouse grime off my skin. When I stepped out, I felt refreshed. I checked my phone. 6:55 p.m. 5 minutes left. Knock, knock, knock. "Hello? You called for number 3. Come in." "It's unlocked," I called out. The door pushed open. A woman walked in wearing revealing clothes, heavy makeup, and black stockings. She had a cigarette dangling from her lips. When she saw me, her eyes lit up. "Oh, a handsome one. Not bad." She saw me lying on the bed fully dressed and frowned. "What's with the clothes? Hurry up and get them off. I've got another client waiting after you." I stayed where I was, my voice cold. "No need. Just come over here. Looking for a new way to play, are we? You college kids are something else," she sighed, stubbing out her cigarette. She sat on the edge of the bed and started to unbutton her top. "Fine. Since you're cute, I'll play along. What do you want?" "Stop," I said. "Go take a shower. When you're done, you can leave." I only wanted her clothes so I could observe the transformation. As she leaned in, I felt the air grow cold. The countdown was almost over. I caught a whiff of it, that faint, unmistakable stench. It was the smell of a rotting corpse, a scent that only came from a zombie. Even though the apocalypse hadn't officially started, those chosen by luck to turn were already showing symptoms. The woman scoffed at me. "Whatever you say, kid. I don't know what your problem is, but I'm taking that shower. Once I'm done, I'm leaving, and don't expect a refund." She didn't have a care in the world. She stripped off her clothes right there in front of me and sauntered into the bathroom. I pulled out my phone. It was 6:59 p.m. I stood up from the bed and reached into my bag. I pulled out my sharp, clean dagger and crept toward the bathroom door. Inside, she was standing with her back to me under the spray of the water. "I knew you wanted to play games," she said, not even turning around. "If you're going to do something, hurry up. My legs are getting tired." Ding! The 7 p.m. alarm I had set on my phone went off. The woman froze instantly. Her skin turned a sickly grayish white right before my eyes. The transformation was instantaneous. At the exact moment the alarm rang, I lunged. The zombie let out a guttural roar, but it didn't last. My dagger was already buried deep in her neck. A black death icon flickered above her head. I exhaled, feeling the tension leave my shoulders. Then, the blue system panel finally appeared, floating in the air. Welcome to the Doomsday Game. Asterisk once started. This game cannot be stopped or interfered with. The cruel end has arrived. 80% of the unlucky people in this world have turned into zombies. To the remaining 20% of you lucky survivors, enjoy the thrill of the game. Most importantly, stay alive. There are no second chances. Asterisk. The text scrolled on, explaining the basics. Zombies had sharp hearing but poor eyesight. They could only track movement. It laid out the rules clearly. Killing zombies or infected animals would grant experience points to level up. Leveling up gave attribute points. There was a small chance for loot, gear, items, or supplies. Everything was ranked: bronze, silver, gold, diamond, epic, legendary, and mythical. Then came the kicker. All modern technology, guns, cannons, nuclear weapons, were now useless against zombies. Even vehicles were dead weight. Communication devices were jammed, though the system joked I could still use my phone to read novels or play offline games. Zombies will evolve over time, the text warned. Keep up or die. Scratches and bites turn you into one of them, but don't worry about blood splashes. Oh, and they get stronger at night. Hide. The message ended with a dismissive tone. There are more tips, but let's see if you survive the beginner period first. Zombies are weak right now. Kill as many as you can. Don't say I didn't warn you. Good luck. Asterisk. I closed the window. I'd seen it all before in my previous life. A new prompt popped up. Asterisk hello, player Lin Luo. Welcome to the Doomsday Game. Would you like to set your username? Asterisk. Yes, I muttered. Set it to Yazi. Yazi. In ancient legends, he was one of the 9 sons of the dragon, a creature defined by slaughter and the obsession with repaying every grievance. I chose it for one reason: revenge. A single favor must be repaid, but even the smallest grudge must be settled. Asterisk Li Haobua, the Li family. Everyone who helped them hunt me down. Are you ready for what's coming? Asterisk. Asterisk username, Yazi, is available. Identity confirmed. Attribute panel loaded. Asterisk. I open my stats. Player. Yazi level. 1 experience. 0 to 1 storage. 0.1 cubic meters strength. 11. Average male is 10. Spirit. 15 constitution. 10 agility. 13. My spirit and agility were significantly higher than an average person's, likely a gift from my rebirth and my refined reflexes. Then I saw my talent. Universal Mastery, Epic Grade. Because of my 10 years in the apocalypse, I already knew how to use almost every weapon and survival skill. But I had gained something even better. By killing that woman the very second the clock struck 7, I had secured the ultimate head start. Asterisk congratulations, player Yazi. You have successfully killed a zombie. Gained 1 experience, 1 gold coin. Asterisk. Asterisk congratulations, you have leveled up to level 2. Gained 1 free attribute point. Asterisk congratulations. You are the first person in the world to kill a zombie. You have earned the unique global achievement. First blood. Asterisk. Global announcement incoming. I clenched my fist. I did it. The stats from the achievement were great, but the rewards from a global announcement were legendary. In my last life, even after becoming a war god, I never managed to trigger a global reward. Suddenly, a massive, heavy voice boomed, echoing from the sky and directly into the minds of every living person on Earth. World announcement. Congratulations to player Yazi for being the first person to kill a zombie. He has bravely taken the first step. For this, he is awarded the unique global achievement, First Blood, and massive rewards. Let all players learn from his example. The world went silent for a heartbeat before erupting into chaos. Whether people thought this was a prank or a nightmare, they all now knew one name: Yazi. While most people hadn't even seen a zombie yet, I was already moving on to the next kill. The world announcement sent shockwaves through the survivors. Somewhere, A man staring at the floating notification cursed under his breath, wondering how anyone could have killed a monster so fast. Another man, mid-sprint with a rotting creature snapping at his heels, screamed for help, uncaring of who this Yazi was. In a dark room, a boy finally put down his gaming console, grumbling about the loud broadcast ruining his immersion. He swung his door open to find a prankster, only for a zombie to lung out and tear half his face off in a single bite. Not everyone was a victim, though. A man in a different city lowered a blood-stained baseball bat, looking at a corpse with a crushed skull. He narrowed his eyes, impressed that someone had reacted even faster than him. Meanwhile, a girl huddled in a tiny apartment clapped her hands, dreaming of this mysterious Yazi coming to rescue her like a knight in shining armor. As the world spiraled into chaos, I was busy reaping the rewards. The system notifications chimed in my head. For earning the First Blood global announcement, I received 1,000 prestige points, 1,000 gold coins, and 3 free attribute points. My storage space also expanded by another cubic meter. I grinned. This was a massive head start. Prestige was vital. Many high-tier weapons and items required a certain reputation level to even touch. Some secret shops even offered discounts or bonus gifts based on how famous you were. The gold was just as important. If I could find the hidden shops scattered throughout the city, I could buy gear or, more importantly, supply cards. Supply cards were the primary way to get food and water in this hellscape. They acted as a safety net for players who lacked the luck to get drops directly from kills. Then there were the attribute points. Before level 10, you only gained 1 point per level. These 3 points meant I was effectively 3 levels ahead of everyone else at the starting line. As for the storage space, it had just 10-folded in size for me. The rules were simple but strict. No living things. Only items the system recognized as mine. If someone swung a sword at me and I caught the blade, I couldn't store it because it still belonged to them. But if they shot an arrow and I plucked it from the air, the system deemed it mine. It was a complex logic, but the system was always the final judge. I felt a surge of energy as I claimed the rewards. Then, I checked my new title, First Blood. It was a unique title, only available to the very first person to kill a zombie. It granted a +1 bonus to all attributes. Better yet, the first attack I made after midnight every day would deal 100% bonus damage. I hadn't expected much from a starting title, but that double damage could be a lifesaver if used correctly. I equipped the title immediately. A warm current flowed through my limbs, and I felt my muscles tighten and my mind sharpen. I probably wouldn't need to change this title for a long time. Switching titles came with a 1-hour cooldown anyway, a rule meant to stop people from swapping buffs mid-fight. I stretched my arms, feeling powerful. As I looked down at the woman's corpse, a green light caught my eye. A necklace was lying in the pool of blood. I blinked. Right, my absolute drop rate talent. I had been so caught up in the global rewards that I almost forgot I was guaranteed loot from every kill. A bronze-grade item on the very first try? That was incredible. Sorry. I muttered to the empty air, responding to the system's prompt to not ignore my own powers. I picked up the piece of jewelry and wiped away the blood. Meditation necklace, bronze grade. Stats, +1 spirit. Increases spirit recovery speed by 10%. The stats were basic, but at this stage, every little bit counted. I slipped it around my neck. The system reminded me that I could only benefit from 1 piece of jewelry of the same type at a time. I knew that already. It was a shame, really. In my past life, my rings, necklaces, and bracelets were all epic-tier masterpieces. But I knew where those items were. I had lived through the process of getting them once. I could do it again. I had 4 free attribute points now, but I didn't spend them yet. I needed time to think about my path. Before I died, I knew of several terrifying hidden classes that no one had claimed yet. I could choose a completely different destiny this time. For now, my base stats were more than enough. Strength 12, Spirit 17, Physique 11, and Agility 14. I was already far beyond any normal human. But I couldn't waste time. I had to clear the area before nightfall. In this game, zombies received a 50% stat boost once the sun went down. Night was defined as 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. Since the apocalypse started at 7 p.m., The system only gave people 1 hour to prepare before the monsters turned into nightmares. It was a cruel trap that would kill thousands on the very first night. I gripped my basic white-gray dagger and stepped out of the room. The hotel corridor was narrow, barely wide enough for 2 people to walk side by side. There were 10 rooms on this floor. I decided to start with room 210, right behind me. My boots creaked on the old wooden floor. The walls were paper-thin, and my footsteps immediately alerted whatever was inside. A guttural growl echoed from behind the door, followed by the sound of heavy, uncoordinated footsteps rushing toward me. I didn't wait. I lunged forward and drove my dagger into the rusted lock. The metal snapped like a toy. I kicked the door open. A zombie in a stained white undershirt lunged at me. Its skin was blackened, its muscles bulging and distorted. It was ready to feast, but I was readier. This zombie looked like he'd done manual labor his whole life. I quickly scanned his stats. Strength 12, Physique 13, Agility 9. He was a few points stronger than the average walker, but for me, this was light work. I spun my dagger in a quick arc and lunged. The zombie's milky eyes tracked me. It swung its long, jagged nails at my face. I dipped my shoulder, sliding under the strike and moving right into its chest. The stench of rotting meat hit me like a wall. I didn't flinch. I drove the dagger straight into its throat. It wasn't a critical hit. The monster opened its gore-stained maw, snapping at my neck from inches away. I didn't panic. I gripped the hilt and twisted hard. A black death marker appeared over its head. The system chimed in my ear. 1 experience point. 1 gold coin. The body slumped to the floor, kicking up a cloud of dust. I took a deep breath. From the moment I stepped in to the moment it died, only 2 breaths had passed. Still, I wasn't satisfied. My execution was sloppy. I should have killed it with the first thrust. I needed 10 experience points to reach level 3, which meant 9 more of these things had to die. I kicked the corpse aside. A card was lying underneath it. In this world, cards usually meant supplies. I picked it up. It was a medium-rare sirloin steak. The description even bragged about it being imported beef with a signature sauce. All I had to do was activate the card, and a hot meal would appear in my hands. Right now, a card like this was worth its weight in gold. Later on, when the shops opened, they'd sell for 100 gold pieces. I tucked it into my storage space. It wasn't dinner time yet. I scanned room 210. In the corner, I found a heavy canvas bag filled with maintenance tools. My hunch was right. This guy had been a repairman. I shoved the bag into my storage, but kept the claw hammer out. The dagger was too short for every situation. This hammer gave me some much-needed reach. I stepped back into the hallway. Room 210 was at the very end of the corridor, right next to a heavy iron gate that blocked the emergency exit. I turned back and started checking the other doors. Room 208 was empty. Room 207 was empty. I felt a pang of disappointment. Where were all the zombies? Then, I reached room 206. I heard it immediately, the guttural snarls of 2 zombies inside. Perfect. I smashed the lock with my hammer and kicked the door wide. Open up. Vice Squad. Nobody move. I yelled. Before the apocalypse, I was a man of few words. During the 10 years of my previous life, I was a cold-blooded survivor. But this time, ever since I'd dealt with Yao Jinghan, my personality felt different. It was like a spring that had been compressed for too long finally snapping back. I felt manic, almost cheerful. The 2 zombies in the room looked at me, completely stunned. They were both stark naked. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised. This was a pink hotel, after all. The male zombie roared, charging at me in all his naked glory. I glanced down and snorted. Really, man? You paid for a room with a setup that small? What a waste of money. The zombie didn't appreciate the comment. He lunged. I checked his stats. He was 2 points weaker than the repairman. I swung the hammer with a sickening thud. His skull cracked like an eggshell. He stumbled, losing his balance, and I finished him with a quick dagger strike to the neck. Another point of experience. Another gold coin. As he fell, a green glow caught my eye. A bronze gray drop. I didn't have time to check it because the female zombie was already screaming and rushing toward me. She was fast. Female zombies usually had higher agility but lower physique. I didn't let the distraction stop me. My blade moved in a blur, sinking deep into her throat. The Black Death text flashed again. She collapsed, and a second green glow appeared beside her. A double drop. I thought back to my first life. I had killed over 100 zombies at the start of the apocalypse just to find half a bottle of water. Now, I had killed 4 zombies and walked away with 3 bronze items. The absolute drop rate talent was a godsend. I picked up the 2 items. They were identical, Scout's eyes. These were one-time use bronze tools that could detect any movement within 10 meters for 10 hours. In my past life, these were treasures. Whenever I was being hunted by the Lee family and was too exhausted to keep my eyes open, I would pray for a Scout's eye so I could sleep for a few hours without being murdered. They were so rare that no one ever sold them. Now, I had 2 in my pocket. I decided right then that I was going to be decadent. I was using one tonight. Suddenly, the stairs at the end of the hall groaned. I heard heavy footsteps and a muffled curse. Who the hell is making all that noise up there? I'm gonna kill you. I stepped out of room 206 and onto the landing. It turned out the heavy footsteps belonged to the hotel owner. He had been sleeping so soundly that he missed the global announcements entirely. When the system panels appeared in front of him, he probably thought they were just hallucinations from waking up too fast and swiped them away. He spotted me immediately. His face twisted in rage. "You little brat," he roared. "You haven't paid your bill, and now you're making all this noise? Today, you're not leaving this hallway until you get on your knees and call me Grandpa." He didn't stop there. He looked me up and down with a disgusting smirk. "Actually, you've got a pretty face. I bet your mother looks good, too. Bring her here to work for me, and maybe I'll consider letting you go." The man had a death wish. He lunged at me, swinging a meaty fist toward my head. I sighed. I was actually in a good mood and had planned on letting him live. I guess that wasn't happening. I gripped my dagger and walked toward him. The owner's fist slowed down. He stopped in his tracks, his hand trembling as he lowered it. A massive, suffocating pressure hit him like a physical wall. He looked like he couldn't breathe. He didn't understand what he was feeling. It was killing intent, the kind you only develop after slaughtering over 100,000 people. Usually, I kept it buried deep, but once I decided to kill, I let it all out. The owner tried to back away, but his legs turned to jelly. He shook uncontrollably. He tried to beg for mercy, but no sound came out of his throat. I stared him down until I was inches away. Then I swung. His head hit the floor before his body did. 10 years in the apocalypse had taught me that being reasonable was a luxury for the dead. Whether it was cold-blooded murder or killing the innocent, it didn't matter. In this new world, the only thing that gave you a voice was your fist. I couldn't even remember how many people I'd killed in my past life. I just knew that if someone crossed me, they died. Ironically, after I became a war god, the public started calling me the guardian of the nation. It was a joke. I didn't even glance at his corpse. If it weren't such a hassle, I would have waited for him to turn into a zombie first just to guarantee a loot drop. But it took an hour for a human to turn after being bitten, and I didn't have that kind of time. I moved to the next door and knocked on room 205. "Hello? Plumber's here to clear the pipes." Nothing. Empty. I tried 204 and 203. Both were empty too. I was starting to get annoyed. Finally, I reached room 202. A low, guttural growl echoed from inside. Finally, I whispered. It felt like reuniting with an old friend. I kicked the door open and took the zombie down with one clean strike to the neck. My old friend was generous. He dropped a bottle of premium Flying Matai liquor. "Good man," I said, giving the headless corpse a thumbs up. "I'll remember you." After clearing room 201 and finding it empty, I stretched my arms. The second floor was officially secure. I decided to stay here for the night. I didn't care about the blood or the bodies littering the hall. Back when I was a fugitive, I used to pile zombie corpses on top of myself like a blanket. It kept me warm and hid my scent from trackers. It worked wonders. The best part about this hotel was the narrow layout. The cramped hallways meant that even if a horde attacked, they could only face me one-on-one. The only problem was the lack of experience points. I only had 4 points so far, and I needed 10 to level up. I checked the time, 7:40 p.m. Only 20 minutes until the 8 p.m. power spike. I needed to kill 6 more zombies before the clock struck 8. I sprinted back down to the lobby. I remembered this place had 3 receptionists, but I had only killed 2 so far. There had to be one more lurking around. I grabbed a hammer and started banging on the wooden counter, making as much noise as possible. Sure enough, I heard a rustling sound coming from behind the curtain of the back office. I pushed through, but the room looked empty. I held my breath and listened. The scratching was coming from below. I looked down and saw a wooden hatch in the floor. Hidden pretty deep, huh? I yanked the hatch open, revealing a steep wooden ladder leading into a dark basement. 2 zombies were down there, snapping their teeth and trying to climb up, but the ladder was too steep for their rotted motor skills. Found you, I muttered. I didn't use the ladder. I jumped. As I fell, the zombies looked up, mouths wide open, waiting for a meal to drop into their laps. I aimed my boots and slammed them into both their heads simultaneously. The impact sent them crashing to the floor, and I used the momentum to roll and stand. Before the first one could get up, I drove my dagger into its throat. The second one lunged, but I slammed my hammer into its face, pinning it down. I pulled my dagger out of the first one and jammed it into the second zombie's neck. I felt a lot of resistance this time, but I forced the blade through with raw strength. I exhaled, feeling the rush. 2 more points of experience. I pulled the blade out and realized why it had been so hard to stab. The edge was completely dull. It had served me well, but it was finished. I tossed it aside. Please let there be a weapon, I prayed. Fighting barehanded was possible, but it was a pain in the ass. I flipped the corpses over. Beneath them lay a card and a long, teal-colored blade. My eyes widened. Is my luck actually this good? I grabbed the card first. It was a food item, 2 steaming hot buns. Great, a side dish for my steak later. Then, I picked up the sword. It was a Tang-hung blade, a bronze-grade weapon modeled after the straight sabers of the Tang dynasty. It was about 70 centimeters long, built for durability and piercing armor. I felt the power hum through the hilt. It gave me a +1 to strength and had a passive ability to ignore 10% of an enemy's defense. This was exactly what I needed. The weapon felt perfect in my hand. It was a standard-issue weapon for this region, but its form changed depending on where you were in the world. In the Dragon Kingdom, it took the shape of a Tang blade or a guandao. Over in the island nations, it would probably be a katana. While these would eventually be common in shops later in the game, finding a bronze-grade Tang blade this early was a massive stroke of luck. I was no longer limited to short-range stabs with a dull dagger. Now, I could cut through zombies from a safer distance. I stashed the blade in my storage space for a moment and climbed up the ladder. I had 10 minutes left and 4 more zombies to kill before the night buff kicked in. The hotel was officially cleared, so I stepped out the front door. This street was tucked away in a quiet area, which was exactly why a hotel like this existed here. I scanned the surroundings. 6 zombies were wandering nearby. Further down at the intersection, another group of 7 or 8 were huddled together. I tapped my foot lightly on the pavement and let out a sharp whistle. After 10 years of fighting these things in my past life, I knew exactly how much noise to make to pull only the ones I wanted. Sure enough, the 6 nearby zombies turned their heads and started shuffling toward me. The group at the intersection didn't even flinch. I pulled out my Tang blade and waited. As they got closer, they caught my scent. Their pace quickened, claws reaching out for a fresh meal. I didn't panic. I backed up a few steps, retreating into the narrow entrance of the hotel. I wasn't running away, I was choosing the terrain. In an open street, there was always a tiny chance a zombie could slip around my side and land a lucky bite. My cautious nature wouldn't allow for that. I wanted them funneled into a kill zone. The plan worked better than expected. 2 zombies tried to squeeze through the door at the exact same time. They got stuck shoulder to shoulder in the frame, snarling and snapping, blocking the path for the others behind them. I actually had to palm my forehead. I had clearly overestimated the IQ of first-day zombies. In my past life, I spent the first day hiding in my dorm room like a coward. By the time I came out on day 2, most zombies had reached level 2 and were much smarter. These guys were just idiots. I stepped forward to help them with their problem. A flash of teal light cut through the air. One clean swing, and both heads hit the floor simultaneously. I pulled the blade back and checked the edge. Not a single drop of blood clung to the steel, and there wasn't a single nick on the blade. Even within the same rank, equipment quality varied. This sword was a masterpiece. A good blade deserved good technique. I kicked the 2 headless corpses out of the way to clear the path. Immediately, the next 2 zombies rushed in, and, I couldn't make this up, they got stuck in the door exactly like the first 2. Are you four related or something? I muttered. Despite the absurdity, I didn't hesitate. One horizontal slash took both their heads off. They rolled into the hallway, joining the pile. For kills, just like that. A notification flashed in my vision. I had reached level 3. I gained another attribute point, and my experience bar reset, showing 30 points needed for the next level. I kicked the latest pair of corpses aside. The 5th zombie actually managed to navigate the doorway alone. I almost felt like crying tears of joy. Finally, a guest with a bit of a brain. Out of respect for its superior intellect, I swung the tang blade in a beautiful arc. I sliced into its arm, followed the momentum upward, and caught it right under the chin. The blade ripped through its skull, splitting its face in half from bottom to top. Even with the respect I showed it, it was still a one-shot kill. As the body began to slump backward, something caught my eye. A book materialized out of thin air and dropped onto the floor. My heart skipped a beat. A skill book? This early? That was incredibly rare. Suddenly, the falling corpse was shoved forward from behind. The 6th zombie was charging. I snapped my focus away from the loot, my reflexes kicking in instantly. I pressed my back hard against the wall as the corpse crashed into the spot where I had just been standing. The last zombie stepped inside, and my expression went grim. It was 8 p.m. The night mechanic was live. Within 60 seconds, this thing's strength would peak. I looked at its stats. Its strength was 15, its constitution was 16, and its agility was 15. With the night buff, this level 1 zombie now had higher raw attributes than I did. I wasn't afraid. Attributes are just numbers. They don't account for skill, mindset, or gear. I didn't wait for it to get stronger. I lunged forward, tang blade raised. The zombie's eyes turned a deep, bloody red, its face twisting into a mask of pure rage. I brought the blade down hard on its neck, but its enhanced constitution was too high. The blade bit deep into the bone but didn't pass through. It was stuck. The zombie roared, lashing out with razor-sharp claws. I didn't struggle with the sword. I let go of the hilt and leaped back. As the zombie lunged, I pulled my hammer from storage and hurled it with everything I had. In the cramped hallway, the zombie had nowhere to move. The hammer smashed directly into its face, crushing its nose and eyes into a bloody mess. It stumbled, blinded and howling. I didn't give it a second to recover. I stepped in fast. I caught the hammer as it bounced off the zombie's mangled face. With my other hand, I gripped the hilt of my tang blade and ripped it free. A fountain of dark blood sprayed from the creature's neck. Even with its face crushed and its shoulder shredded, the monster didn't stop. It lunged at me with a mindless, feral rage. I stayed calm. My eyes tracked its every movement. I took a breath, centered my weight, and swung. It was a perfect strike. My blade cut through the air, carrying the full momentum of my body. I angled the edge, slicing upward across the throat. The steel passed through flesh and bone with a clean whistle. The head flew. I stepped aside, watching the headless corpse stumble past me. It took 3 shaky steps before collapsing in a heap. All 6 zombies were dead. I exhaled a long, shaky breath and rubbed my aching arms. That last one had been a nightmare. Its attributes had peaked at nearly 20 points of strength. I had gone toe-to-toe with it and come out without a scratch, but only because I knew exactly how to redirect force. I couldn't stand around feeling proud. It was past 8 p.m. Outside, every zombie was now 50% stronger. The noise from the fight was loud enough to draw a crowd. I grabbed the corpses by their ankles and started dragging them. 1, 2, 3. I piled all 6 bodies against the hotel's front door. It was a gruesome barricade, but it worked. The entrance was sealed. The lights over the lobby counter flickered dimly. I didn't want to stay in the open to check my loot. I kicked the severed heads out of my path, gathered the 6 items dropped by the horde, and headed for the 2nd floor. The floorboards creaked under my boots as I bypassed the dead owner's body in the hallway. I pulled out a scout's eye and placed it on the floor. A green circular barrier, visible only to me, expanded until it covered a 10-meter radius. What a waste, I muttered. These things were expensive, but I needed the security. If any living soul or undead monster crossed that line, the barrier would turn blood red and trigger a mental alarm. It would wake me up even from a deep sleep. I walked into room 203. I'd scouted it earlier, It was the cleanest room in the building, likely the VIP suite. This would be my base for the night. I dumped my spoils on the table, but didn't look at them yet. Instead, I headed straight for the bathroom. I needed a hot shower. In my past life, I was always unlucky, so I developed a ritual. I called it the Purge. Clean body, clean mind, better loot. After scrubbing the grime and blood away, I changed into my last set of clean clothes. I felt human again. I sat at the table, my heart racing with anticipation. I pushed the skill book to the side, saved the best for last, and looked at the other 5 items. The first card was food, Peking duck. Nice, I whispered. Dinner just got an upgrade. The second was a gallon of mineral water. Essential. The third and fourth items made me blink in disbelief. 2 more scout's eyes. In my previous life, these were rare treasures. Now I had 3 in one day. I didn't understand why my luck was this good, but I wasn't going to complain. The 5th item was a ring glowing with a faint green light. It had dropped from the buffed zombie. Nightfall ring. Bronze grade. It gave me a +1 to agility, but the passive effect was the real prize. At night, it reduced my presence by 30%. I grinned. This would be a massive help for the mission I had planned for the night after next. I slipped it onto my finger immediately. Finally, it was time for the main event. Jade Emperor, Buddha, Jesus, whoever is listening, please, I muttered, offering a prayer to every god I could think of. Give me something I can actually use. Skill books were incredibly rare. In this world, there was no limit to how many skills you could learn, but the drop rate was so low it almost didn't matter. Most players only ever had the 2 or 3 skills they got automatically as they leveled up. By the late stages of my past life, even high-level players were lucky to have 5. The strongest mage god in the world only had 25. I used to have 10, which put me in the top 1%. Now, I was looking at a chance to start my collection on day 1. I rubbed my hands together and opened the ancient-looking book. Whirlwind Throw. Warrior-type skill. It allowed me to hurl my weapon for 120% strength damage. The best part? The weapon would automatically fly back to my hand. If it hit an enemy on the return trip, it dealt another 80% damage. Beautiful, I said, my voice echoing in the quiet room. It was a ranged attack, a homing weapon, and a multi-hit combo all in one. The cooldown would be long until I raised my spirit stats, but it was a game changer. A system prompt flashed in my vision. System detected skill book, Whirlwind Throw. Does player Yazi wish to learn? Yes. Learn it now, I commanded. Congratulations. Player Yazi has learned Whirlwind Throw. My hands itched to try it out, but the room was too small to throw a blade around. I forced myself to stay calm and tucked my new treasures into my storage space. I was only on day 1, and I was already level 3. I had 3 pieces of bronze gear, a powerful tang blade, a top-tier skill, and a stash of supplies. Best of all, that woman, Yao Jinghan, was finally dead. I felt a surge of pure satisfaction. I pulled out my food cards and activated them. A plate of steaming Peking duck and 2 fresh buns appeared on the table. It was time to eat. A medium-rare sirloin steak appeared next, followed by a bottle of high-end Matai liquor. After a whole afternoon of fighting, my stomach was practically glued to my spine. I didn't hold back. I started stuffing my face, grabbing the Peking duck and wrapping it in thin spring pancakes with plenty of sweet bean sauce. I followed that with the steak, the pasta, and the fried eggs. It was pure bliss. I had to admit, the food cards dropped by the Doom game were incredible. These cooked meals tasted better than anything I'd ever had in a 5-star hotel. Good times are always short, though. In no time at all, the table was bare. I rubbed my belly and let out a satisfied sigh. I tossed the disposable plates and cutlery aside and wiped the table clean. It was time for the most important task of the night, planning my future. I pulled out a notebook and a pen I'd scavenged earlier and started writing. First, I had to decide on my class. The Doom game divided players into 2 basic paths, warrior or mage. It was that simple. Once you reached level 10 and finished a class trial, you became one of the 2. But the game gave you total freedom within those paths. If you chose warrior, every level up gave you a fixed point in strength and stamina, plus 2 free attribute points. If you wanted to be a tank, you dumped everything into stamina. A glass cannon bruiser? All strength. You could even go for agility if you wanted to be an assassin. Archers were a different story. They didn't really need to worry about stats as much as they needed to worry about actually hitting their targets. Being a warrior didn't mean your spirit or agility wouldn't grow, but the natural increase was tiny. Mages were the opposite. They got fixed points in spirit and agility, plus 2 free points to spend. Most mages dumped everything into spirit. Of course, you could put those points into strength or stamina if you wanted to be a melee mage. It was a brave choice, but usually a stupid one. This was why my 5 free attribute points were so precious. If I spent them now, they would be enhanced significantly once I officially changed classes. I had to be careful. The 2 paths I mentioned were for the 99%. The remaining 1% of players found hidden classes. There were actually quite a few of them, but the power gap between them was massive. I was aiming for the top. I wrote the word Phantom on the paper. That was my class in my past life. I had earned it with my own sweat and by dancing on the edge of death more times than I could count. Phantom was a legendary assassin class. Maxed out agility. Explosive single-target damage. It was the only reason I survived 10 years of being hunted by the Lee family. Before the second class advancement, a Phantom gained 2 points in agility and strength per level, plus 3 free points. It was worlds apart from a normal class. I knew the requirements for Phantom like the back of my hand. It would be the easiest top-tier class for me to get. But I didn't stop there. I wrote down other names: Holy Banner, Necromancer, Asura, Titan, Life Reaper. These were all god-tier hidden classes. I knew how to get them because the people who held them in the future became war gods and magic gods. Late in the apocalypse, major factions would publish the life stories of these legends to boost morale and show off their power. I never got that treatment, of course. I died on the very day I was named a war god. After thinking for a long time, I decided to stick with Phantom. I knew the process best, which meant the highest chance of success. The other classes were risky. Who knew if those legends exaggerated their stories or left out the dangerous parts? One missing detail in a hidden class trial could get you killed. I was a cautious man. I'd stick with what I knew. I stopped hesitating and spent my points. 3 into strength, 2 into agility. My stats shifted: strength 16, spirit 17, stamina 11, agility 17. A warm current flowed through my veins. I felt stronger instantly. With my path decided, I spent the next few hours scribbling furiously. I needed to remember everything. Where did I encounter the Holy Banner? Right, it was there. Where was that diamond grade item? I couldn't forget that one. It was a game changer. I muttered to myself as I wrote, realizing my memory was already starting to blur on the specifics of certain sword locations. A blunt pencil is better than a sharp memory. I filled page after page with details on items, gear, and events from my past life. By the time I finished, it was midnight. I exhaled, tucked the notebook into my storage space, and stood up. I turned off the lights and collapsed onto the bed without even taking off my clothes. In the apocalypse, you slept ready to fight. For the first time in 10 years, I fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. My eye of scouting was guarding the door. Yao Jinghan was dead. The hunters were gone. My nerves weren't frayed, and my future wasn't a blur. Meanwhile, in a luxurious living room across the city, a man was screaming in rage. Damn it! Where's that bitch? Where did she go? He grabbed a vase and hurled it at a bodyguard in a suit. An old, silver-haired butler stepped forward. Young Master Lihaobua, please lower your voice. You'll attract the zombies outside the manor. Lihaobua froze. He remembered the horror when the manor first turned. Thousands of servants and guards had become monsters. Out of 4,000 people, only 400 were left. He shut his mouth, trembling, but his eyes remained wild. How could he stay calm? I had spent so much time planning that beautiful little drama. It was supposed to be perfect, but that bitch Yao Jinghan ruined everything. Why didn't she show up yesterday afternoon? Why didn't she answer my damn messages? Because of her, my materials weren't ready, and I couldn't send them to that loser Lin Zilu in time. I could only imagine the look of pure despair on his face if he'd received that message. Just thinking about it made me shake with excitement. Honestly, I probably could have provoked him so much he would have dropped dead on the spot. Then he could have gone straight down to hell to see his disgusting father. But no, because of that bitch, and because of this damn apocalypse game, I missed my window. Damn it all. Everyone deserves to die? I was screaming now, my voice echoing through the manor. The silver-haired butler stepped closer, his face tight with concern. "Young master, please. You must lower your voice. Our bodyguards have already taken heavy losses. If more zombies break in, we might not be able to protect you." The butler sighed internally as he watched me. He knew the old master had raised me to be this way on purpose. In a great family, you only need one capable heir to avoid internal power struggles, but that strategy only works when the family actually has power. In this new world, my personality was a liability. Maybe I was afraid of the butler, or maybe I just valued my own skin, because I finally shut my mouth. But it didn't last long. I slumped onto the sofa, muttering to myself. "It's just such a waste," I hissed. That loser Linzilla didn't even get to watch me play with Yao Jinghan in person. How am I supposed to get my revenge now? Damn it, the more I think about it, the angrier I get. I spat on the expensive floor and grabbed the butler's arm, my teeth clenched. "Uncle Zhao, I don't care what it takes. My father said the hunting mercenary group was coming to find me, right? They should be in M-City by now. Tell them to find those too. I want Yao Jinghan, dead or alive. And as for that waste Linzilla, I want him broken. I want his mind to snap." "Understood," the butler nodded. "The hunting mercenaries were raised from childhood as your personal death soldiers. They will carry out your every wish." Just thinking about that scene made me tremble with joy. Asterisk congratulations to player Yazi for successfully killing a zombie. Gained 1 experience point and 1 gold coin. Asterisk. Asterisk congratulations to player for reaching level 4. Gained 1 free attribute point. Asterisk. Player Yazi needs 40 more experience points for the next level. A blade glowing with a faint green light spun through the air. An oblivious zombie was sprinting toward a nearby human, but it never reached its target. The blade flashed, and the zombie's head, mouth still wide open, tumbled to the ground. A green item dropped from the corpse, but I didn't look at it yet. Instead, I watched as the spinning blade reached its limit, defied the laws of physics, and curved back toward me like a boomerang. Another zombie lunged at me from the side, never expecting the return swing. The blade sliced through the back of its neck with ease. Congratulations to player Yazi for successfully killing a zombie. I caught my Tang sword as the death notification popped up over the monster's head. "Whirlwind/really is useful," I muttered. The only downside was my low mental power. It kept the cooldown period longer than I liked. It was 12:30 p.m. I'd been out since 6:30 this morning, which meant I'd been on the move for 6 hours. I'd stuck to the back alleys and secluded routes where zombies were scarce, but the harvest was still great. Nearly 30 kills had pushed me to level 4. With my 100% drop rate, I now had 30 new items. I wasn't quite as lucky as I had been last night, though. A lot of the drops were just basic supplies: a clean men's shirt, a bowl of braised pork rice, and a precision wristwatch. I stuffed them all into my storage space. At least I had enough food for the next 3 days. I strapped the watch to my wrist immediately. In this game, keeping track of time is life or death. Checking my old secondhand phone was too slow, and soon the city's power grid would collapse without maintenance. Charging a phone wouldn't even be an option then. Among the other drops, I found an eye of scouting and a hidden mask. The mask was a bronze-grade item that allowed me to hide my nickname, level, and basic stats for 30 minutes, twice a day. It was perfect. I put it on immediately. I walked over to the 2 fresh corpses and picked up their drops, a serving of ham-fried rice and a glowing green scroll. My eyes lit up when I saw the scroll. Equipment Enhancement Scroll, Bronze Grade. Can be used to enhance bronze grade equipment. First enhancement is guaranteed to succeed. Subsequent success rates decrease with level. I didn't hesitate. I slapped the scroll onto my Tang sword. Enhancement successful. Congratulations to player Yazi for obtaining Tang Horizontal Blade +1. The blade felt different in my hand. It was 70 centimeters of cold, reinforced steel, designed for armor penetration and durability. The stats had jumped. Strength +2, 15% armor penetration, and a 10% damage boost for consecutive strikes. It even had a slow self-repair function when out of combat. The edge gleamed dangerously under the midday sun. I dumped my new attribute point into strength. By the second day of the apocalypse, my stats were already at the level of a special forces soldier. Strength, 18 mental power, 17 constitution, 11 agility, 17. My stomach growled, breaking the silence. I'd done enough for the morning. I needed to rest so I could push through the afternoon. If I could hit level 5 today, I wouldn't even need to hunt for regular dungeons tomorrow. I could go straight for that place. I checked my direction. I was currently heading from the small hotel toward the Leaf family manor. Originally, I planned to find a dungeon portal. Those were the main source of XP and gear in the game since the number of zombies in a city is technically limited. But there were also hidden, unique dungeons. And those were where the real rewards were buried. My strength was increasing rapidly. I didn't need to waste any more time waiting around. By the time I finished my morning trek, I had covered about a third of the total distance. I found myself on a secluded backroad. Aside from the 2 zombies I had just put down, there wasn't a living soul in sight. Low-rise bungalows lined both sides of the path. I had chosen this route carefully. I deliberately avoided crowded areas. It was only the second day of the apocalypse, after all. Very few people were brave enough to face the streets alone. I picked a random bungalow and smashed the door lock with my blade. The inside was a disaster. Belongings were scattered everywhere, a clear sign of the chaos that ensues when one family member turns and the others scramble to escape. I didn't let my guard down. The bloodstains on the floor and the metallic, rotting stench hitting my nose told me one thing. There was still a zombie in this house. I raised my tang sword and moved past the messy living room toward the hallway leading to the bedrooms. A sudden roar shattered the silence. It came from the room on my right. 2 gray, rotting claws burst through the wooden door, lunging straight for my throat. My reaction was instant. With my agility sitting at 17 points, I dodged the strike with ease. I swung my sword downward in a silver arc. The blade sliced clean through both arms, severing the claws. The zombie on the other side of the door began slamming its body against the wood, making a sickening, creaking sound. I didn't bother opening the door. I thrust my sword straight through the wood. The blade sank deep, piercing the creature's chest. But the chest wasn't a weak point for these things. It kept thrashing, waving its bleeding stumps in the air. I delivered a heavy kick to the center of the door. The shattered wood flew off its frame and crashed onto the bedroom floor. The zombie was pinned underneath the wreckage. I stepped forward and calmly took its head. Combat over. I relaxed my shoulders and headed back to the living room. I pulled up a chair at the dining table and fanned out a thick stack of item cards. I sighed, looking at the pile. There were so many options I didn't even know what to eat. If the people outside struggling for a scrap of bread heard me, they would probably spit blood in frustration. I decided to let fate choose. I pulled 4 cards at random and activated them. In an instant, steaming, fragrant dishes appeared on the table. I grabbed a bowl of shredded pork and sausage fried rice and started devouring it. Once I was full, I stretched out on the sofa and pulled out my phone to check the offline maps I'd downloaded earlier. I was currently on Pingshan Road. If I headed east this afternoon, I could reach my destination. I was still a bit short on experience for level 5, but if I killed every zombie I saw along this route, it would be more than enough. I rested for a short while, tucked my phone away, and stood up. I felt good. I even hummed a little tune as I walked toward the exit. But just as I reached the door, I stopped.